What's up, guys? What's up? And welcome to week 6 of the Sweep Up the Middle podcast, talking fantasy football here. I am your host, Mitchell Ryan. Hopefully everybody's having a good week. And yeah, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the games starting on that Thursday night between the Patriots and the Buccaneers. Jameis Winston had a chance at the end to win it, but Patriots prevailed 19-14. Chris Hogan looked good. I think he's the 5th ranked PPR wide receiver right now. Very underrated this year. Chris Hogan, good pickup. Jets over Browns 17-14. Patriots edging out the Lions 27-24. Cam had a big day there. Colts over the 49ers in a thriller in overtime 26-23. Dolphins edging out the Titans 16-10. Bengals edging out the Bills 20-16. Chargers beating the Giants 27-22. Jaguars demolishing the Steelers. 5 turnovers, Big Ben. 30-9 there. Eagles take care of the Cardinals 34-7. Seahawks edging out the Rams 16-10. Ravens take care of the Raiders 30-17. Packers taking care of the Cowboys 35-31 in a very depressing or enjoyable game depending on which side you were on. Chiefs taking care of the Texans 42-34. That game shouldn't have never been close. Rant, here we go. I was up 128-102 in one of my leagues, and the only person to play was DeAndre Hopkins, who had 1 catch for 6 yards and a touchdown in a PPR league. So if you count that up, that's 7 points most way through the third quarter, maybe to the end of the third quarter. And then he goes off. He gets BS touchdown after BS touchdown. There's a guy at the end who gets tackled on the 1. The clock's ticking. They have no timeouts. Watson spikes the ball with 4 seconds left, and he throws a 1 yard, 1 catch, 1 touchdown, 1 second left, fade route to DeAndre Hopkins going against a third stringer. So I lost 129-128. So I lost 129-128. And DeAndre Hopkins did nothing till that fourth quarter. So that's just how, in that league, my fantasy year is going. And then the Vikings edged out the Bears 2017. Case Keenum, shout out Abilene. Mitchell Trubisky, first start, rookie, obviously showed. But what's depressing is their longest pass this year came on that 4th down fake punt. That was more than 30 yards against the Vikings in the Monday night game. So Bears, depressing, 1-4. Decent D, quarterback can't help right now, whether it's Glennon or the rookie. So that was week 5. Of course, injuries like Odell Beckham. You also had Dwayne Harris and Brandon Marshall going down for a significant amount of time. So you're looking at Sterling Shepard for pretty good heavy workload if he is able to get on the field this week. Other news, if you're holding on to Eifert, you might as well get rid of hhim because he's going for a second opinion in LA. And it's looking like he might be out for the year. Big one's obviously Odell Beckham and that Giants receiving core. They're at 0-5 right now and just kind of a depressing year. So the bye weeks. This week you have Buffalo, you have Cincinnati, you have Dallas, and you have Seattle for your 4 byes this week. Let's jump into it. Let's go to the quarterback starts. Right off the bat, Deshaun Watson versus the Browns. He's had over 90 fantasy points the last 3 games, 12 touchdowns, and he's just a hot hand. Also, the Browns have given up 11 touchdowns and almost 20 fantasy points a game this year to quarterbacks. So Deshaun Watson, big start. Next, Kirk Cousins, easy. Going against the 49ers, who are terrible. Coming off a bye week as well for him. They're averaging over 265 yards and 18 points. The quarterbacks are against 49ers. Kirk Cousins, big start. Next, easy. Cam Newton versus the Eagles. Over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns the last 2 games, going for 32 and 26 fantasy points. The Eagles are the 12th worst passing defense, and it's a short week going from a Sunday night to a Thursday night game. Easy, Cam Newton. Moving on to QB sit-ems. Ben Roethlisberger versus the Chiefs. Big Ben on the road has only averaged 13 fantasy points since 2014. I've said that again and again and again this year. And this year he's right on par. I think he's in between 12 and 13 average-wise. So I'm not starting him. Chiefs are the best team in the league. They have a pretty good defense. And again, averaging 13 fantasy points. That locker room is we don't know where. Antonio Brown throwing a cooler 1 week. Le'Veon Bell demanding the ball 1 more week. So that's kind of a circus show right now. And I think it's just going to go on as the Chiefs win that game. Next, Derek Carr versus the Chargers. Look, he's coming off a back injury that could have kept him up to 6 weeks, and it's only keeping him 2 weeks. This is the Romo ordeal where we rush Romo back every time so we could win a football game, and he just got injured more. So Carr's going to be at risk. You saw how much he was holding that back last week. But yeah, the Chargers have given up less than 16 points the last 4 games. That was coming against Carson Wentz. That was coming against red-hot Alex Smith. And Carr's only had 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions the last 4 games. So I'm sitting Carr this week versus the Chargers. Next, running back start, C.J. Anderson versus the Giants. The Giants have given up an average of 28 PPR points to running backs this year, and this unit has also given up 12 plus PPR points to 4 runners in 5 weeks. So CJ Anderson, coming off a bye week, he's going to be healthy. They're going to give him the ball a lot, especially if Jamal Charles has any injury or fumbling problems. He's been that bell cow back there. And again, CJ Anderson can have more than 20 carries, putting in the call. Big week against the Giants. Next, Alvin Kamara versus the Lions. Adrian Peterson got shipped off, which obviously means they trust Kamara behind Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's had his best year last year. It made no sense to me to pick up Peterson in the end. In the beginning, I also shouted out on Twitter a month ago that the Cardinals should have traded for Peterson. I made that call. Got a lot of retweets and like on Twitter. Shout out personal Mitchell Ryan 21. But yeah, Kamara, big week. Big year so far as being a rookie out of Tennessee. They traded Peterson off, so they trust Kamara. They trust Ingram to get back to his former self. But again, PPR backfield in the third down conversions. Drew Brees likes his checkdowns. Kamara's going to have a big week. And this stat right here I'm looking at. The defense has surrendered 6 catches and the 6th most receiving yards per game to opposing running backs. So big week for Kamara. Put him in as a flex play. You'll be happy that you did. Javorius Allen versus the Bears is my next big start. He led the team in snaps at 47 and touches at 25. And with Flacco not being as confident in his passing, that he's going to check down a little bit more. So I think Javorius Allen, just with the previous history of averaging right around that nice 12 to 13 point range, when he's leading the backfield in snaps and touches, and you had Collins, the rookie out of Arkansas, who has, I think, 2 fumbles on the year. Obvious for me, Javorius Allen going against the Bears, and the Bears have given up double digits PPR fantasy points to at least one running back every game this year. Next, big sit-em of the week, Adrian Peterson versus the Bucs. He's only averaging like 2.13 yards a carry since last year. And here's the fun stat. The Cardinals rank last in yards before contact at 0.9 to running backs. So the running backs are getting hit before they gained a yard, and Peterson has only gained 2 yards since last year. The Bucs also have allowed only just 15 points per game to runners in the standard format. You know, it's the first week. Give it some time. Let's see what it looks like, but I'm not starting Adrian Peterson this week just because of the 2-yard average and the Cardinals only giving up 1 yard before contact. My next big sit-em is Tariq Cohen versus the Ravens. Look, again, Mitchell Trubisky, rookie quarterback. You figured he would check down, but the points just haven't been there, even if it was Glennon or Trubisky. He's only had 10 points the last 2 games. And the Ravens are not the best passing defense, but they've had some hard matchups, and they're still a pretty good D. I think the Ravens D is ranked they're actually ranked number 4 in ESPN standard format. So I got to see more before I start Tariq Cohen as a running back 2, maybe a flex, but you're looking at him. If you picked him up, you're obviously looking at him as a running back 2, usually in that situation. I would sit him this week going against the Ravens. To me, wide receiver start. Chris Hogan versus the Jets. As already mentioned, he's the 5th highest ranked PPR wide receiver this year. He has 3 total points less than Stephon Diggs. The Jets have allowed 5 touchdowns to wideout in their first 4 games. So Chris Hogan, hot hand in that lineup with Brady. I'm starting him. You should too. That's one of my big starts this week at wide receiver. Golden Tate versus the Saints. He has been a disappointment the last 2 games, scoring only 16 fantasy points PPR-wise and no touchdowns. But again, it's the Saints. They don't have the best pass defense. They've allowed an average of 35.6 PPR points to wideouts at home. Defense has also given up the 3rd most receiving yards at 485 to slot wideouts. And again, as I mentioned last week, before last week, Golden Tate in the slot 78% of the time. Stafford, he is a target machine. I'm still riding the wave. Saints don't have a good pass defense. Golden Tate, big start. Next, Adam Thielen versus the Packers. You saw Case Keenum have a big week coming in as a sub to Sam Bradford. But yes, Thielen out of the slot. He's trustworthy. I think Keenum trusts him as much as Bradford does, so no matter who's starting, they're going to try to give him the ball. But the Packers allow an average of 186 receiving yards and 4th most PPR fantasy points to wideouts on the road. Slot receivers have also scored 3 touchdowns. So Thielen, big start versus the Packers. So my next big sit-em is Nelson Aguilar versus the Panthers. Panthers have a pretty good overall defense, Nelson Aguilar, he's hit or miss. You never know what he's going to give you. He's going to have one big week, but then he could have 3 bad weeks. And this is kind of how it goes. His last 3 games, he's only had 21 fantasy points right around. So that's on average 6 to 7 points. There is a decimal in there. Excuse me for not counting that down. But the Panthers have surrendered the 9th fewest receiving yards at 310 to opposing slot receivers. So not a good matchup against the Panthers D. He's hit or miss. With those hit or miss guys, I'm looking for an all-around knock out of the park. Bad defense, looking to break out of a slot. This isn't for me this week against the Panthers. Next is Demaryius Thomas versus the Giants. Look, he's going against Janoris Jenkins. He's one of the best corners in the game. He shut down Dez, and he shut down a lot more number 1 receivers this year, and he's going to down the road too. Only one fantasy wideout has had double-digit points against Janoris Jenkins this year, and that was Mike Evans. So the other 4 have averaged less than 5 points in standard leagues. I'm avoiding Demaryius Thomas this week just because I don't really trust Trevor Siemian that much. A lot of people do, but I also think a decent run game and a good defense, especially with having that home crowd, can make you look a little better than what you are. So I don't trust Trevor Siemian as much as other people, but again, going against Janoris Jenkins, but I'm avoiding him this week. Moving on to tight end starts, my next big one is Cameron Brate. He's going against the Cardinals, and he hasn't been on the field as much as you'd like, but he's also found the end zone the last 3 games, and the Cardinals have given up 29 PPR points to tight ends last week. So, again, Cardinals, not a good week last week. Cameron Brate, 3 touchdowns last 3 weeks. I'm starting it. This is a kind of stretch out left field, but Ryan Griffin versus the Browns, and this is specifically for matchup. 4 tight ends have finished in the top 10 in PPR this season. So if you're kind of in a fantasy situation where you have Gronk and you don't know what's going on, and he had that late bench last week, so if you need some depth and maybe you had Eifert, who's probably going to go down for the year, or still looking for a replacement for Olsen, Ryan Griffin, he's pretty much available in every single league if Cameron Brate's not, or my next one I mentioned too. But good matchup against this week going against a bad Browns D. Look for him to start with Watson as a hot hand, as I've already mentioned in my starters. Next is Austin Seferian-Jenkins versus the New England Patriots. Again, we've talked about it. New England Patriots have not looked that good this year on the defense side of the ball. Cameron Brate had a touchdown against them last week, and he had 6 catches for 14 fantasy points in the wins over the Browns. He had a touchdown in there too. And the Patriots have surrendered an average of 5 catches, 4 touchdowns, and 17 PPR points to opposing tight ends this year. You can pick him up too. Those are 3 good pickups that are good starts this week: Cameron Brate, Ryan Griffin, and ASJ. Tight end sit-ems. Eric Ebron. He has 23 targets, which is 14 more than Fells, but the fact of the matter is their snap percentage is close, and Fells saw the red zone targets last week against the Panthers. So I haven't been big on him this year. He is a rookie, and Fells is close to the snap percentage. I'm avoiding him this week because there's just not enough breakthrough in the tight end positions week. I can find better matchups without anybody, breathing down my neck, trying to get up on the depth chart. My next sit-em is Jared Cook versus the Chargers. Yes, he's the 11th ranked PPR tight end this year, but he's found the end zone just once, and he scored fewer than 8 points in his last 4 games. And the Chargers have held Ingram to 0 points, Kelsey to less than 1 point, and ranked the toughest defense against tight ends. So again, Chargers, talented D. I'm avoiding Jared Cook this week. And what I also wanted to do is defense are so up and down. I didn't want to give you 2 or 3. I wanted to give you a full list. So I'm just going to read off who you should start, no reasoning behind it, and then who you should sit. Big starts this week: the Falcons, the Broncos, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Jags, the Texans, the Redskins, and the Titans. I think they have all favorable matchups, whether it's on the road or at home, and their opponent. So those are the ones I'm looking at starting this week. Going to the sit-ems now. You have the Steelers, the Rams, the Giants, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings. I'm sitting those for those significant reasons. You can check out whether home, on the road, who are they playing, so on and so forth. But that's who I'm starting, and then that's who I'm sitting. Moving on to my bold predictions. This week, I say Golden Tate has a 100-yard game this week. He gets back on track. And I say Demaryius Thomas gets held less than 7 PPR points this week. So Golden Tate, 100-yard game. Demaryius Thomas, less than 7 PPR points. And that is your bold predictions for this week. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to week 6 of the Sweep Up the Middle Fantasy Football Podcast. Remember to reach out to mitchellryan21.com/SUTM for deep analysis rankings, as well as a fantasy football trade analyzer. They're both free, If you're having those, who should I start, who should I sit, is this a good trade, is this not a good trade, go on to mitchellryan21.com/SUTM to catch all the other videos as well as that in-depth knowledge on trades and pickups and who to start and who to sit. Go to Facebook and Twitter at SUTM Podcasts. Any information you have, question, comment, tips. And of course, please go right here to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as going right here to watch last week's video. So again, thank you so much always to ESPN and NFL for the amazing stats. Again, mitchellryan21.com/SUTM and at SUTM Podcasts on Facebook and Twitter. This is Mitchell Ryan checking out. Y'all have a good one.